Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, rumors, and discussion. This week, rumors are flying around that a new season of Star Wars Visions is in the works. The Ahsoka series has reached through the world between worlds and into the Spider-Verse to find one of its directors. And we have lots of teases about what's to come from The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and more. We'll be talking about that and so much more here tonight on the Star Wars Underworld podcast. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, it's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yes. How's it going, everybody? Yeah, it's funny how these past few weeks, it's like felt like there hasn't been a whole lot going on. We haven't had new shows or even a new film for a while, but there's also been a lot going on too, and there's been a lot of news, and we got some very interesting things that I'm very excited to talk about. That rumor you're talking about has me very, very excited, very intrigued. And then there's a whole lot of other stuff happening, and just remind you that on the horizon there's some good stuff, and we're actually just a little over a month away from a lot of stuff happening. Finally, so yeah, it's gonna be a fun show.
Yeah, speaking of reminders and fun stuff happening and all that stuff, last week we celebrated our 12th anniversary, and we went through the list of all the biggest news stories that were on April 10th of the last 12 years. I don't know about you, Ben, but we're in this sort of window right now in April where my Facebook memories are like half joy, half torture, because they're all from Star Wars celebrations past. And so it's joy because I'm remembering so many fond things, but it's torture because it's like, I was having so much more fun at this time last year, or not even last year, 2019 or 2017 or 2016, 2015, all that stuff. And we're coming up on, if you can believe it, the 7th anniversary. This Saturday is the 7th anniversary of the Force Awakens panel at Celebration Anaheim 2015. The moment when the world first heard the words, "Chewie, we're home." And I see that. I see people talking about that. I see, people remembering the Rise of Skywalker trailer and all sorts of great stuff from Celebration Chicago. And it gives me these like warm, fuzzy feelings about, we're a month and a half away from doing that again, and it makes me wonder, like, what's going to be the moment at this next celebration? Because in the previous celebrations, the moment was always the trailer. It was The Force Awakens. It was The Last Jedi. It was The Rise of Skywalker. At Celebration London, it was Rogue One. And even though we had things like Mandalorian and Jedi Fallen Order and Clone Wars and that sort of thing in Chicago, this celebration feels like it might be a little bit different because there's one thing in that Kenobi is happening, and it's happening like during celebration, but it feels like there might not be the moment the way that there usually is. Instead, there'll be like a lot of big moments that will sort of be kind of jockeying for that key memory the same way, the Palpatine laugh was in Chicago.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of celebrations, especially the past few years, have kind of operated off of, kind of functioned as kind of the big kickoff for the big promotion machine for these movies, even though, we would, obviously we get a trailer and that's it. And then we'd wait a few months and then get more stuff. But like, even for 2019, that was, we've learned the name The Rise of Skywalker the first time while we're at the convention. We saw that trailer, we heard that voice, wrote it again, all that stuff was during that convention. And that was a huge, huge moment. So now we're not necessarily, it's not a big movie we're anticipating at the end of the year, but there's a bunch of other things that I feel almost as equally excited about coming up. And one of the things that's happening during Celebration, like right then, we will see the thing at Celebration, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I sort of feel like if there is going to be a thing at Celebration, it is going to be related to Obi-Wan Kenobi, because they have an opportunity to do something really unique with that, because they've never, had a celebration. Celebration didn't happen the week The Last Jedi was coming out. If that had happened, just imagine like what they would have tried to do for the people there. And so we're going to have at least 2 episodes. We'll definitely have 2 episodes drop during the convention on Disney Plus. And maybe they can throw a little something else extra at us, something fun. There's going to be another episode the Wednesday when we're coming home. So maybe you just move that up a little bit, show it on Friday, show it on Sunday, something like that. Or there's that, or I kind of wonder, maybe there's something we're not even thinking about that's going to be the thing, because, Mando's kind of far away. If we get anything from Mando, it'll probably be very teaser-esque. And Kenobi's like too immediate, where, they don't want, maybe they won't want to show something that really gets people, that will carry the speculation for months and months. Andor feels like maybe there could be something there, but I don't know. I feel like Andor is in its own little bubble in a way, and I wonder if maybe there's something else, that there's another bullet they have in the chamber that they could surprise everybody with in Anaheim.
I can't. I don't want to go in with very specific expectations.
I know.
That's dangerous, very dangerous. But at the same time, I can't help but believe that we haven't really, since that big Disney Plus Day thing, we got Rangers of the Republic, which is not happening, and all the other things that are kind of happening. Maybe
it's happening. It's the Cobb Vanth show, I tell you.
it eventually we'll get something out of it, but since then we really haven't had any major announcements. They made that a big deal and then they dropped it. So obviously some stuff has changed, and I'm assuming that even more stuff is in the works. They have more in the chamber. They have more bullets ready to go to fire at us. And, I think overall it's, I think Celebration is the perfect time to release all that. And I would love it if, I think that showcase panel, that live action showcase, the fact that it's so broad, they're not saying, oh, it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi panel. It's the Mando's even getting their own panel. So I'm assuming there's not going to be a lot of Mando stuff there. We're probably going to get the season 3 trailer at the Mando Plus panels. What's going on there? Well, they could talk about a few things. They're going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi. They may even show an episode or 2, but they could also drop some huge bombshells on us in regards to what's coming up in the next few years.
Yeah, the Mandalorian stuff is where I'm trying to be the most careful, and we'll talk about this later in the show. But despite what you may have heard this week, it's probably not going to come until the very end of the year, the season 3. It's probably not going to be there. So I'm really trying. That's where I'm trying to really keep my expectations in check of sizzle reel, behind the scenes sizzle reel for season 3, or something akin to the very first Force Awakens trailer, or something that's real. A real snapshot that isn't a big bombastic thing, but just a little something to tide everybody over until the fall, when things will kick into gear for Mando season 3 again. But there's so much potential here, and it's looking like it might shake out to be a different sort of celebration, where the last couple of celebrations have been focused on stuff that's happening now or in the next couple of months. This one seems like it'll have that for sure. Again, obviously, Obi-Wan Kenobi's premiering during the convention.
Still can't get over it.
Yeah, but maybe there'll be actual announcements at Celebration, which we don't usually get, right? We get like release date stuff or title stuff, but we don't get like, here's a brand new thing. And, second season of Visions, as we'll talk about, or, Grammar Rodeo, or some of these other things that are there are rumblings about, could see some actual announcements. Who knows? Yeah. But, month and a half away. What do you have the actual count in front of you? Do you know?
Okay. All right. So the count as of right now, 43 days away from the Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, dang it, my stupid app hasn't added it. I don't want to hear about QuickBooks. 43 days away from the Obi-Wan Kenobi premiere.
You're charging people, you're billing people for this now. You're like, all right, I'm giving you the countdown, so here's your invoice. There you go. That'll be $5.
42 days away from Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, and maybe we'll find out on Celebration 617 days away from Star Wars Rogue Squadron.
I bet we get something Rogue Squadron related there. I bet there's a little something, even if it's just a tease from Patty Jenkins.
The fact that the movies have such a huge presence over the years at Celebration, I think it begs to do something like that. Not and say that they're going to show us a trailer or whatever else, but like, maybe they'll have the kind of official announcement of like, this is happening. Here's going to be starring whatever.
Yeah, you know what I'm hoping for? You remember the Rogue One panel in 2015?
I remember that vividly.
Yeah, where they just had Gareth Edwards come out and talk for an hour, and he was supposed to have Josh Trank with him, but it was sick. But he came out and he talked just about Star Wars and talked a little bit about what they were doing and how they were working on it, and then they showed this animated teaser for the movie, like photoreal animated teaser, but it was just something like that. I think something like that for Rogue Squadron, I think would go a long way to for convincing people that this movie is actually going to happen, because the sad truth is people need a little convincing sometimes.
Yeah,
Star Wars track records with movies in the last couple of years is not always the greatest.
Yeah, I think it would add a lot more confidence to the slate, because everyone's kind of, especially the movie slate, is kind of up in the air, and even the TV slate to a certain extent. So I think if we came out of Celebration with a better idea of where things are going in regards to, okay, here's where these are happening. We got a date for Taika Waititi's movie. We got a date for the Rian Johnson trilogy, maybe.
That's the big announcement. That's the final announcement. That's the closer. That's what we go home with.
Ryan comes out on stage. Yeah, he's
just
like, I'm gonna take a picture with every single one of you for the next 5 hours.
He just goes, "I'm back," and drops the mic and walks away.
Yeah,
and then we'd spend like 2 days speculating about what that means, and then then he'd do an interview with Variety like a week later and be like, "Oh no, this is what I meant. I meant that I'm back for the trilogy. I'm not just doing an episode of The Mandalorian or something." But we'll talk some more about Celebration, and we'll talk some more about all these things that we're hoping to see a little bit of at Celebration. I feel a little bad for anybody that's not going to Celebration, because, which I know is most people in the world, because it's hard for us not to be excited about it. It's 40 some odd days away. And so we're thinking about it, but I know Celebration is an event that you can have a lot of fun with, even if you're not there. I hope that Lucasfilm, StarWars.com is doing the live stream again. And even if you can't be there, just follow, even if they don't do that, I can, even if they don't do that, usually there's a lot of fun can be had just following along on Twitter, even just following the live tweets of panels and that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time.
Some of my favorite Star Wars memories are of me watching before the live streams, just staying online at home, watching Celebration, watching it happening. Like, oh my God, George Lucas has showed up. Oh my God, all those things, those classic moments. Watching clips from the Jon Stewart, the main stage George Lucas thing. Like, there's so many great things from Celebration Past that I didn't experience in person, but I felt like I was there because I was so, paying attention.
Yeah. Well, and it's when you were doing that too, it was a different time because, like you said, it was pre-live stream. It was up to, it was up to people like me who were there to keep an eye on things. One of my favorite Celebration memories was Celebration Germany. This was in the very early days of live tweeting Star Wars panels, and like Celebration Germany was kind of the forgotten celebration for a lot of American and North American Star Wars fan sites. It was kind of the forgotten event, and this was very early days for Star Wars Underworld. It was 2013, and I went, and Kieran was there, and our buddy Irish Chris was there as well, and we had a good time. But I was live tweeting like the Clone Wars panel. I live tweeted the Kathleen Kennedy panel. I live tweeted the Star Wars Rebels panel. I was having a good time, and I ran into Pablo Hidalgo. And this was like early days of like story group and stuff. And I just said, hey, Pablo, can we get a picture, man? Like, this would be cool. And he's like, yeah, for sure. And I had my Star Wars Underworld t-shirt on, which were very rare back in the day. Right. And he's like, hey, are you the guy that's been doing all the live tweeting? I'm like, I am. Thank you, Pablo. And he's like, oh, you're doing such a great job. I know you're really keeping everybody up to date on it. I'm like, oh, thank you. Thank you. So
I think our Twitter had like the biggest growth in its history in that, because like everyone was sourcing your tweets.
Because nobody else thought, hey, this app that is used for doing up-to-date coverage of events, hey, why don't we use it for this, providing up-to-date coverage of this event? So but anyways, but now like with the live streams, like I've watched back those panels and stuff. You feel that energy, you feel that excitement, and you feel that annoyance of stop bantering, get to the frickin' trailer. No, we love the bantering. The bantering's great. But I think we've done enough bantering to open the show. We should plug a few things, but before we do that, we should mention, of course, our co-host Chris Seekell, unfortunately unable to join us this week, feeling a bit under the weather. Yeah, he's feeling a bit under the weather, so we wish him a speedy recovery, and hopefully Chris will be back next week, and of course he'll be back for Celebration and all that fun stuff. But as always, we want to remind you, if you haven't already, if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it after the fact and would like to see what the show looks like, it's Ben and I staring at each other from across a continent. You should subscribe to the Star Wars Underworld YouTube channel. Just search for Star Wars Underworld on YouTube and scroll past all those videos about that test footage from a few years ago, and you'll find us. And you should punch the subscribe button, Chewy. And if you're listening live, you're listening along with us, and you want to make sure we see your comments in the chat. We see most of them, but if you want to make doubly sure that you see it, you can super chat with us, and that really helps us out, helps us expand what we're doing and grow what we're doing, and hopefully will allow us to do some more cool things at Star Wars Celebration. Another way you can help out with that is by going to patreon.com/the SWU, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to our weekly pre-show where we just talk about whatever. We've been doing a lot of memory lane stuff at the start of this show, and we did a lot of that on the pre-show last week, or on the pre-show this week, talking about these images that Ben makes to celebrate the various anniversaries of the Star Wars Underworld, and the process he goes through to select such glorious pictures of me. So you can get that and other cool things for the various tiers over at patreon.com/the SWU. There's merch that you can buy over at cultureslate.com/store, like the CAD Shot the Sheriff shirts that are out there. Buy them. They're cool. They look good. And if you want to send in listener feedback, you can do so by sending an email to swunderworld@gmail.com. We've got some emails that we'll be hopefully getting to later in this show. And if you want to send in one for a future show, swunderworld@gmail.com. And if you're listening on not YouTube, any other platform, which I know most of you do. I mean, we talk about the YouTube all the time, but I'm like, most of the listeners actually, most of the people that hear the show are listening on things like Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. If you like them, like the show, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave a review if you can. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Oh, and also follow @Percy the Puffer Pig on Instagram, because there's fun stuff going on over there. fun stuff going on over there. All right, let's get into the news, and we start with the big report, as we were saying off the top. Star Wars Visions is expected to continue this year with new episodes. This was an exclusive report from Cinelinx. This is what they say about the story. Over the last few days, I've had multiple independent sources reach out to tell me some good news. Not only is Star Wars Visions 2 in the works, and pretty much has been since the first season hit, but it's set to arrive this year! All capitals. The timing is tough to pin down, but I've heard both September and October thrown out there, so I'm thinking a general fall release would be what we're looking at. While I haven't been able to pin down which animation companies will be getting this time, I've heard that there will be some returning studios who would be doing follow-ups on stories/characters from the first season. Again, I have no details on the shorts themselves, so I can't tell you which continuations we might see. Either way, I'm pretty damn excited. One source is pretty confident that we'll get confirmation, possibly even footage of Star Wars Visions during next month's Star Wars Celebration.
There you go.
But that's also a tough nut to crack. Announcement timing is never easy to track, but I've heard before Celebration would bring a deluge of news that would set the record straight on many reported projects going around, like maybe that High Republic live action show we reported on earlier this year. So that's the story. That's the scoop from Cinelinx. More Star Wars Visions. Ben, how do we feel about that?
I love it. I am very, very excited by this. I really liked Visions even a lot more than I thought I would. So and I think a lot of those stories, especially The Ninth Jedi, were ripe for continuation. And even if they don't continue, I am eternally fascinated with this concept. And I think it was so much creativity, so many really interesting things happening, and something I think we need more of in Star Wars. I think that's where our discussion kind of went to. I think back in the day was just like, I like where this is going. I like, it's different, it's new, it's very inventive. It's something we never really seen before. And it's doing something I used to think I hated anime. I used to think that. And then I'm kind of dumb for thinking that because I never really watched anime. Then I watched Star Wars anime. I'm like, this is really cool. So that's great. It's crazy that we just saw it just came out in September. It really hasn't been that long ago since we saw season 1, and we're going to be potentially getting a second season or a part 2 or whatever they're going to call it. But I'm and if we get this is Celebration, that would also be a bonus.
Yeah, I feel like this is the sort of thing you just have to keep doing, and I hope that it continues and it can be expanded. I think it's terrific that we're going to get more. Presumably, I mean, it doesn't say explicitly that it's going to be more anime, or I mean, it suggests that it's going to be some of the same studios, so that suggests it's more anime. But it doesn't say it's going to be exclusively anime. There's lots of lots of countries, lots of cultures have very rich animation traditions. Sure. Perhaps not as famous as Japan, but it would be cool to see this expanded out beyond what it was initially conceived as, while also continuing to go back to the Japanese anime because there's so much good stuff to be mined there. And let's not forget that Star Wars itself owes a great debt to Japanese culture, Japanese film, Japanese art. Just Google samurai and then have a look at Darth Vader and go, oh yeah, I see this. I understand. So I'm super excited to see more. I loved that Visions was so different and it was so willing to try to break the mold for what Star Wars is and what Star Wars can be. And I think more episodes of that is a good thing, undoubtedly. And yeah, I hope I really like the idea that they're going to continue some of those stories. The Ninth Jedi, like you said, that just feels ripe for a part 2, if not a part 3, a part 4, a part 5, a part 6, and on and on and on. Like that was such a rich, interesting world that we got a quick glimpse of in 20 minutes. But other ones, Lop and Ocho, I think that's a story that should be continued. The Duel got continued in Star Wars Ronin, which was the novel, and that was sort of that's one of the things that makes me kind of excited about more Visions beyond just the initial concept of it. Is that novel was able to take that quick glimpse of the world that we got in the in the show and build it out into something new and unique and kind of a fresh take on Star Wars that was familiar but different. And I think doing more of that could be really interesting. And will be really interesting. And I hope that more of those shorts from season 1 get that treatment. The other one I'm kind of hoping for is I want Tatooine Rhapsody 2 or Naboo Rhapsody or something.
Game. I'm game.
Just I need more. I need that song. I need more songs like that. I need more Star Wars pop punk in my life.
More Star Wars musicals, man. You can't have enough of them.
Yeah, I mean, if we're not getting the Detours one, then we should at least get a sequel to the Visions one. I think that would be really cool. So. An announcement at Celebration that seems likely. I have to think. We didn't get any panels announced this week, but I have to think there'll be a Star Wars Visions panel at Celebration Anaheim. Even if it were just to talk about what had already come out, I feel like there has to be a follow up on Visions in some way. And if they're going to do a Star Wars Visions panel, they're going to want to end with a bang. And what's a bigger bang than, oh, guess what? Season 2 is happening. Here's the trailer, and it's coming out September 27th. I'm just pulling a date out of the air. Yeah, September 28th. That's the Wednesday. So maybe it could be that. So but more Visions, good thing. I can't wait to see what they come up with this time around. Yeah. Next up, we're going to switch over to the live action, and we'll talk a little bit about the Ahsoka show. This is a report from The Hollywood Reporter. Peter Ramsey is set to be a director for Ahsoka, the latest Star Wars series, as they say in their headline. Just making sure everybody's aware what's going on. They make sure they know who Ahsoka is. They write, Peter Ramsey is going from the Spider-Verse to the Star Wars universe. The director who became the first black filmmaker to win the animated feature Oscar as co-director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has been tapped to direct at least one episode of Ahsoka, the latest Star Wars series that Lucasfilm is making for Disney+. The Hollywood Reporter has exclusively learned. Shooting begins in Los Angeles later this month. The episode count and additional directors have not been revealed. Lucasfilm has not commented. They never do. They never, ever, ever do. And maybe they should, but they don't. Someday, perhaps they will. But just looking at Peter's resume, in addition to Into the Spider-Verse, I also directed Monsters vs. Aliens, Mutant Pumpkins from Outer Space, which was a television special, directed Rise of the Guardians, which is a 3D animated movie that's actually really fun. That's the movie where it's sort of like the Avengers, but for holiday characters. Where Jack Frost and Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy, they team up and go on an adventure and that sort of thing. This would be his kind of first foray into being the lead director, the main director, the first unit director in live action, although he did a bunch of work as a second unit director in the 90s, working on things like Poetic Justice, Tank Girl, Higher Learning, and of course the acclaimed 1998 Godzilla remake. But we won't hold that against him. But obviously the big thing is Into the Spider-Verse, and I wonder if he reached out to Phil Lord and Chris Miller and said, hey, any advice? Any advice? What do you think of this one, Ben? What do you think? Peter Ramsey coming in and to direct at least one episode of Ahsoka.
No, I think this is great. I think, I'm biased because, Spider-Verse is probably among top 10 movies of all time for me. Like, it's fantastic. Legitimately deserves the Oscar and every other accolade it could get because it's so amazing. And also I feel like it feels kind of fitting to have someone who has a background in animation working alongside Dave Filoni, who also has a background in animation, working on translating a character that was in animation into live action, and being that this is one of his first live action projects. That's a really interesting idea. And I just like the idea of okay, you're doing this, and obviously it's going to be more grounded. It's not, different actress, different everything, but you still want to keep like you have the show is called Ahsoka. You're trying to get the attention of not just new fans, but people that know Ahsoka. Ahsoka being one of the newer characters that's been almost specifically and strictly in animation previously, and someone who millions of kids have grown up watching her. I think having someone who came from the same kind of pedigree as Filoni and knows how animation works to, probably a greater degree than a lot of, live action filmmakers do. So I like that a lot. I really, I like where this is going. And I'd love to see what he does, because this is, obviously very talented, love his previous work, and, it would be awesome to see what he does here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that animation connection, mirroring Dave Filoni's career in a sense, going from animation to live action, although I get the impression that Peter, maybe started in live action, then shifted to animation, then is now coming back around. But I wonder, the Ahsoka show, I'm kind of expecting the Ahsoka show to be perhaps the most visually interesting of all the Mandoverse shows. The Mandoverse largely has played it safe so far with its visuals. The Mandalorian, and especially Book of Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett to like a shocking degree, have kept it to really sort of standard earthy locations for the series. We're in a desert, a real actual desert, but not actually.
And then a space ring.
A space ring. That's the one kind of one that where it breaks the mold a little bit. But you're in a desert. You're on an ice planet. You're in a jungle. You're out there in California. You're in all these different places that are fairly familiar to us on Earth. The Ahsoka show is where I kind of expect them to push beyond that. And we keep going back to that Ahsoka logo, and there's the world between worlds. And it looks like it, or at least it looks like it's the world between worlds. And I'm expecting this to get much more visually sort of kind of a little bit trippy, just get out, it could be out there and kind of, more futuristic, more sci-fi, more fantasy than we're used to in the Disney Plus stuff so far. And maybe you want someone with a background in animation, being a key creative in that, or being one of your directors who has the eye both for what needs to be directly in front of the camera with the actors and the props and all that stuff, and what sets they build, but can also is also used to working with creating visuals after the fact that will be sort of more expansive and more, like I said, out there, more trippy than we're used to with Mando. And so I this is kind of interesting to me, having two guys who have significant backgrounds in animation, and animation that pushes the boundaries, right? Clone Wars pushed boundaries in a huge way, and Spider-Verse pushed boundaries in just as big a way. I don't think there's another movie quite like Spider-Verse that looks the same way.
And people have started to notice this in regards to like certain movies coming out. There's a new Puss in Boots movie coming out, and it's set in the same universe as like the original Shrek movies, and those are very like more stylized a little bit, but mostly realistic animation. If you've seen Shrek, everyone's seen Shrek, but like and it is cool. But then this Puss in Boots movie is like kind of stylized. It has this a bit more of a aesthetic flair to it that's different from the other movies, and people are saying like, okay, it really seems like Spider-Verse has kind of shaken things up in regards to people kind of applying these different styles to it. And Spider-Verse is so in depth, like to the fact of like, having it very comic booky in ways. The fact that like Miles Morales is like, he's like a different frame rate from everyone else until like he gets his powers and is right, because they're just like so detail oriented with that movie. It's incredible. So I like that idea of like, these are pioneers, these people that have pioneered animation. Clone Wars was huge in paving the way for what we're seeing right now, with not just with Bad Batch, but with everything. And I love that, these guys are going to be working together and providing, pushing things forward into live action. But I would love to see him come back and do some animation stuff for Star Wars too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, he does this episode of Ahsoka, then he jumps over, does an episode of Bad Batch, and just keeps bouncing around. It's and Star Wars also, was one of the. I mean, George with the prequels was really pushing the idea of, blurring the line between animation and live action. He was really into the photoreal animated characters like, Jar Jar Binks, and all of the, all the Gungans and all the battle droids and even the clone troopers all through the prequels. Like there's so many, there's so many animated characters that exist in those movies that are just made to look like they're not animated. And, we saw that kind of reach its, apex with, Lion King and everything that Jon Favreau does with those Disney remakes where, those are animated movies, but everyone treats them like they're live action movies because there's this point
live action Lion King. No.
Yeah. At this point, there's almost no difference between the two. And so, it's kind of interesting now where you can almost shift away from having it to have to be like perfectly photoreal and do something a little bit more stylized. And now you can bring in guys like Dave and Peter who, like we were saying, broke the mold in animation to now break the mold in photoreal animation and do something where it's not just like, oh, we need it to look like a lion, so go look at some pictures of lions and then do that in the computer. It's like, let's imagine something entirely new and let's try and imagine what it would look like here on Earth, and let's use this technology that George helped pioneer with the prequels and then Jon Favreau helped perfect with Lion King and everything, and let's meld all that together with some crazy stylized Star Wars Visions-esque stuff and put it on screen. And I have a feeling Ahsoka will look different from everything we'll have seen up until that point when it finally comes out sometime next year.
Because if it's Ahsoka and she's in a desert, a real desert, and she's on a snow planet, and then she's around some bamboo, and then she goes to a space ring, and then repeats it again. Like that's gonna get old. It's gonna look cool. Like that space ring thing look cool.
Oh, it's great.
I'm cool with going back there. I'm cool with. I'm over the whole like hysteria about desert planets. I get it. We're never gonna get rid of them.
No,
but
can't.
You're gonna have to do something different, and they all can't have the same look and feel of Mando. I get why Mando and Boba look about the same, because they are telling kind of the same story. I mean, it's basically season 3, well, the whole other situation there, whole other story. But basically, Ahsoka is an outlier. She's telling presumably a whole new story from what we've heard, continuing what happened in animation. So it only makes sense to take what of that and go like, okay, we're telling a story that would have been in animation, we're doing it in live action. So how do we engineer this, but also reverse engineer it to make it feel like a continuation of those stories? Because I've heard people, kind of disappointed about that, saying like, yeah, I would have preferred this in animation because I prefer animation. I get that, but I hope that Filoni and Ramsey here can find the happy medium and please everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the fact that Ahsoka is continuing what we first saw in animation, someone else who I'm going to say is probably a director for the Ahsoka series is Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah,
Bryce Dallas Howard. She was interviewed this week by Romper. This interview just came out today as we're recording this, and actually no, it came out 2 days ago, but people just noticed it today.
That happens.
But this is perhaps like one of the greatest celebrity interviews I've ever read. Let me just read the opening paragraphs of the article on Romper here, just to give you a sense of what this is. This is written by Elizabeth Angel or Angel. I'm not sure. We'll go with Elizabeth Angel. That sounds nice. It says she says here, if you're here for a hard-hitting interview with actor and director Bryce Dallas Howard, well, I'm sorry to tell you that you're in the wrong place. If you're here for chocolate and Star Wars, well then, right this way.
Sign me up.
I love it. And so basically, Elizabeth, who wrote this article, she was at an event with Bryce that was, I guess, an Easter event. So there's lots of chocolate and chocolate bunnies and chocolate eggs and all that stuff. And she had her kids with her. And her kids just started asking Bryce Dallas Howard questions about the Ahsoka series, or just about Star Wars in general. And Bryce kind of turned it around on the kid at one point and starts asking this kid, you know who Dave Filoni is, right? And the kid says, yes, of course I know who Dave Filoni is. Good kid. Probably listens to this show. No, I have no idea. But this is what Bryce says. Yeah, so Dave Filoni, he knows Star Wars better than anyone other than George. And he was taught by George when he was doing all of the Clone Wars, because they did that together. And we worked together on Mandalorian. The kid says, I love Clone Wars. It's my favorite. Bryce says, without giving anything away, you're going to love the Ahsoka show that's coming up. I cannot tell you anything, but what I can say is that if you're a fan of the Clone Wars, you will be greatly rewarded.
The first thing I think of is just like I'm sad that Filoni wasn't there himself, because that's his greatest fear and greatest weakness is kids asking interview questions about upcoming Star Wars projects. But also, that's a fascinating answer. That is absolutely fascinating. I mean, I guess it's a given at this point. It's an Ahsoka series about a character that primary came from the Clone Wars. Like, I get it, but the fact that she's singling this show out is like, this is going to be, because we've had a lot of good Clone Wars stuff in a lot of stuff that Filoni's been involved with naturally. So, and we're already looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi maybe having some stuff. I'm not banking on it, but I'm hoping. But
Obi-Wan seems to have more Rebels connections at this point.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case, which fair enough. Throw some bones to Rebels fans too. But this feels like, hey, I mean, if they're bringing Hayden in like they're supposed to be, there's a lot of potential there. So a lot of stuff could happen.
I'll tell you, you know what the first thing that popped into my head was? Captain Rex.
Oh.
The Rex Ahsoka live action meeting / reunion, together again for the first time. Given how involved Tamura Morrison is with Star Wars, he said he's game to play more clones. He said he's game to play Rex. And Bryce is saying, if you're a Clone Wars fan, you're going to enjoy this show. And I feel like the thing that, what's the big thing at this point that could get Clone Wars fans, more hyped than they already are? Because, the thing has already happened, right? Ahsoka appeared in live action. I never believed that would happen until a couple of years ago. Like until there was that weird Dave Filoni interview where somebody asked him about Ahsoka in live action. He got all cagey. I was like, this is never, ever gonna happen. And then it did, and Bo-Katan showed up, and it was wild. I couldn't believe it. And so I'm like, well, okay, so if that's already happened, what else is there? What else could be out there? And, we've seen clones in live action. We've seen Tem come back, all that stuff. So, like, those things in and of themselves, at this point, maybe that's not the biggest surprise. But to get a new scene between Rex and Ahsoka, I think would be a huge thing for Clone Wars fans. The final season of Clone Wars, the 7th season, really cemented the fact that was their show. There were lots of side stories and lots of secondary characters, but even characters like Anakin and Obi-Wan were when you look at the overall arc of the series, were supporting characters in the story of Rex and Ahsoka. And the fact that we got 12 episodes of Clone Wars, 4 of them were about Rex, 4 of them were about Ahsoka, and then 4 of them were about Rex and Ahsoka together. Yeah. I feel like cements that. So I feel like if you're going to do something that's kind of the spiritual sequel to Clone Wars in live action, the thing you do is you put Captain Rex in there, and you have these two characters, share another scene together, and Rex and Ahsoka scenes always have a sort of an extra tinge of emotion ever since Rebels, right? Ever since Clone Wars ended before its time. Anytime you could get the two of them on screen together, they cared a little. There was a little something extra going on in those scenes. In Spark of Rebellion, in Twilight of the Spark. What was it? The Defeat. What's the one with Ahsoka? Where's the first Ahsoka episode? The first big one, the two-parter.
Siege of Lothal.
Siege of Lothal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Siege from Siege of Lothal to Twilight of the Apprentice. There's a couple of Ahsoka Rex scenes in there, and that they're really meaningful. And then we got the Siege of Mandalore, and there's some really beautiful Rex and Ahsoka stuff in there. And I kind of expect we'll see a Rex and Ahsoka scene at some point in Bad Batch. I feel like that's something that'll happen.
That's something that I'm shocked we haven't gotten it already.
Yeah. It feels it's kind of
that they had. I'll forever respect their restraint for not doing it.
Yeah,
it's a natural choice.
But in terms of just bringing all of that full circle, what could be bigger than saying here's Rex and Ahsoka in live action?
And you got Tim Morrison back. You got a new Ahsoka and Rosario Dawson. Yeah. You've got all the pieces. You've got all the materials to make this happen. And that will be, I think this would be my only real big disappointment in Book of Boba Fett is that I would have loved to see a little bit more exploration of Boba's clone heritage, and maybe bringing in some other people that Tim Morrison would naturally play, literally any clone. So that's the whole thing that now they can basically in the same era, they can have, I think not using Tim Morrison to the fullest especially at this stage would be a crime. So they have so much potential there, and Tim being so supportive and being yeah, he looks kind of like me. I'm yeah, he is you. Yeah, just play him.
Yeah. I keep going back and forth on whether I think Book of Boba is going to get a second season. There are some days, if you ask me, I'll say yes. And there are some days, if you ask me, I'll say no. And there'll be most days where I'll say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think one thing we can take solace in is we haven't seen the last of Tamora Morrison back in Star Wars. I think at the very least, Boba's not going anywhere. He'll be in Mando season 3, season 4 beyond. Maybe he'll pop up in Ahsoka, maybe pop up in Rangers or whatever replacement might come up for that. But I feel like Tamora Morrison isn't going anywhere. And I feel like you just, like I said, I think if you're doing an Ahsoka show, it's kind of hard to do an Ahsoka show and not include Rex unless you're going to kill off Rex in something else that takes place before then, which I don't think they are. It seems like the only places that Rex feels involved at this moment are in Bad Batch, and we know he survives that because he pops up in Rebels, and in this. So unless there's a show that they haven't announced yet that takes place right after Return of the Jedi, in which it's the tragic tale of the death of Captain Rex, it feels like he's due for his live action moment. And you look at all these other all these other animated characters that are getting their live action moments, whether it's Ahsoka, Bo-Katan. We're probably going to see Ezra and Sabine popping up in the Ahsoka show as well. I think Zeb and Hera can't be too far behind. I gotta think that there's one person missing from that in terms of all of the big animated characters. It's Captain Rex. Gotta think Captain Rex is around for more. But that's not the only thing Bryce said. That's kind of interesting. This is one of the weirdest things I find myself getting excited about. Because Bryce asks the kid in the interview, do you have any more questions? And the kid said, yeah, I wanted to ask you why there are no handrails in Star Wars. And Bryce says, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked me that. I can't tell you anything specific, but all I can say is keep watching. What?
What does that mean? Filoni, Favreau, what are you doing? Is it gonna be a joke, like a passing joke? It's just like, yo, there's never any handrails in these Star Wars, or are they like, or is there like a whole show about like, I don't know.
It feels like a Detours sketch. It feels like something that would happen on Detours. Yeah.
At this point.
But you're right. At the same time, Jon Favreau is the guy that wanted Mando to say McClunky. Dave Filoni had to talk Jon Favreau out of having Din Djarin say McClunky. And so I have to think Favreau, of all people, would be like, yeah, no, we're going to explain that. We're going to have a scene. It's going to be a little moment. It's going to be a throwaway thing, and it's going to happen. But I still think Family Guy had the best explanation. They had the sketch with the two officers standing by with the Death Star laser, and one of them's going on about, oh, why don't we have a railing where we, blah, 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 blah. And the other one goes, yeah, I asked about that. And you know what they said? They said they're worried we'll lean. It's like, what? It's terrific. And so I want that scene in live action. By the way, for everybody who is not watching live, you are missing just a spectacular freeze frame of Ben. And there is only one proper response to that. Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Yes.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
Star Wars rules. This is momentous. This is exciting. Why, hello there, Ben.
Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
He is the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Mr. Ben Hart. How's it going, everybody? Man.
After the show, Ben, you have to go back to about 51 minutes into what we're doing here, just to see this screen, just to see where your internet, how badly your internet betrayed you. With this,
oh no! You know what?
Glorious freeze frame.
I'm just not okay.
Oh, I will send you the screenshot. But yeah, we were talking about the Family Guy railing bit, and that is I feel like Jon Favreau was going to put that into live action. So yeah, he also had Mando say "wizard," as Yanni points out in the chat. So. There it is. What an interesting tease from Bryce Dallas Howard. The Ahsoka thing's going to get all the attention. But that railings thing, I mean, if you run a clickbait site, how are you not doing just 12 articles about that right now? Everybody out there is listening who runs a clickbait site. Get on that. All right, what else we got? Let's talk a little Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you know who else is talking Obi-Wan Kenobi? Rupert Friend, he of the Grand Inquisitor fame, the new Grand Inquisitor, the one with the squashed head, that Grand Inquisitor. He was interviewed this past week in the UK on The One Show with presenters Jermaine Jenas and Alex Jones. No, not that one. The other one, this nice Welsh lady who just is really unfortunate to have that name. But Rupert Friend was on The One Show, and he talked about what it was like to be the Grand Inquisitor. We don't have a clip, but he said it was sweaty. It was a sweaty suit, and I did sweat buckets inside the prosthetics, which would pour down across my face at the end of the day and make me look like a very, very miserable clown. But it's so worth it. So worth it, says Rupert Friend. I need in Obi-Wan Kenobi gallery, I need some shots of this. I need to see what Rupert looked like at the end of filming. Speaking of gallery, where the hell is the Book of Boba Fett gallery?
Seriously, that's the real question.
Watch that be the big announcement at the celebration panel. Like, oh, and also the Book of Boba Fett gallery. It's a 2-hour special. Yeah, I mean, we speculated at the time why they recast this role. Like, why not go to Jason Isaacs to play this part? He, is a film and TV actor in addition to a voice actor. He's done more live action stuff than animated stuff, I would say. Why not get him to do it? And I also feel like just looking at Jason's face, it's more suited to the Grand Inquisitor look, to the Powan look. But we speculated at the time, the reason is probably because it's a pain in the ass to put on all that makeup and put up on all those prosthetics. Like, God bless Rupert Friend for wanting to do it. Any of these actors that are like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll put the stuff on me, go for it. Why not? So I have to assume, and just hearing about what he went through, I wonder if you send this article from Digital Spy or maybe Jason Isaacs was back home in the UK and he was like, oh, time to watch The One Show, my favorite show. He watched that and was like, oh yeah, I made the right choice. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to have sweat pouring down my face, looking like what did he say? A very, very miserable clown.
Wow. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's been a lot said about this whole thing. But ultimately at the end of the day, it has to be practical, not just practical effects. It has to be practical in use, it has to work for the actor wearing it. It can't be dangerous or super uncomfortable. Obviously, it's not very comfortable for him. I can't even imagine what he went through for this role. So, and then to have the reaction that we people on the internet had about, well, it's not quite right. He's like, oh, come on, man. Yeah. I almost died for this. I sweated for this.
If Rupert Friend goes to Celebration, I dare anybody who interviews him to ask him about the reaction. I want to see his face if he hasn't heard about this. I want to see his face when he hears about it. I think everybody who complained about it should have to just stare at that look that he gives the interviewer for until they realize how ridiculous we were all being. That said, I still. It's too shrunken. It's not. It should be taller. I still think it should be taller. He suffered enough. We shouldn't be talking about it anymore.
Friend, we know you almost had a heat stroke and died in this uniform. But people on the internet have been talking, and they have decided that your head is too short. It's too round.
We have to get
this.
We have to get Sir Benjamin, the Star Wars gentleman, press credentials. We need to get you to some junkets to ask the hard-hitting questions.
Yes, but do you know why your head was not quite elongated enough? Sir? Mr. Friend? Imagine this ridiculous thing coming up to you and asking you, yes, why was your head not quite tall enough?
Yeah,
you would assume you're in the Twilight Zone, and so it's just too much. But yeah, that's what he's got to worry about for the rest of his life.
Yeah, for the rest of his life, he'll be dealing with that. Oh my God!
Interview time, but don't ask me about the Grand Inquisitor.
Don't
ask me about that head.
Yeah, like some people, they have things they don't want to be asked about. Like Adam Driver never wants you to show footage of him in his movies to you. There are other people that are like, don't ask me about my divorce. Don't ask me about this. And Rupert Friend's like, don't ask me about the internet people. I don't want to hear about them anymore. They all suck.
He's gonna be, he's gonna be like 70 years old at a convention, and it was like, hey, Mr. Friend, what I think was it? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
He'll be signing an autograph. He'll be signing the picture, and then someone will go, the head should have been a little bit taller, and he'll just rip the picture off and be like, you're not getting your money back.
Or or someone like brings him like a photoshopped like picture of the head, like they want it to be the fixed version.
The fixed version. Oh my goodness. Poor Rupert Friend. Let's keep talking a little bit more about Obi-Wan Kenobi, because Entertainment Weekly, they're continuing to roll out their coverage about Obi-Wan Kenobi. They're really milking this. They're really making it last. Like, I feel like back in the day, like when Anthony Bresnikan was the guy for Entertainment Weekly, it'd be like 5 stories in 5 days. Boom, 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 boom. Here they all are. Now it's like 5 stories in 5 weeks. Like they're getting everything they can from this the story. But the headline this week is Obi-Wan Kenobi will focus on, quote, a time of darkness in the galaxy. So the bulk of this article is made up from quotes from writer Joby Harold. This is what Joby says. It takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith, in a time of darkness in the galaxy. The Empire is in the ascendancy, and all the horrors that come with the Empire are being made manifest throughout the galaxy. And the Jedi Order, as we know them, are all being wiped out. So everything that was in the prequels has crumbled. Those surviving Jedi, those that do survive, are on the run, and they're in hiding. And Vader and his Inquisitors are chasing them to the end of the galaxy. Within that hopeless, fatalistic world, we find possibly the most famous of all our surviving Jedi in hiding, struggling with that faith that defines the Jedi, and wanting to hold onto it and hoping to regain that faith within that sort of hopeless world. Within that environment and that galaxy, his faith is tested, and he goes on a journey that allows him to travel from that character we last saw in the prequels, where McGregor really felt like he was embodying Obi-Wan Kenobi to a pretty extraordinary degree, and ends with him as the more finished article that Sir Alec Guinness gave to the world in A New Hope. And so in this very specific time in the history of Star Wars, when the Jedi are on the run, and we get to sort of stand next to and watch Obi-Wan Kenobi as he runs the gauntlet and has to survive a pretty extraordinary experience. It's interesting stuff. What we get here. I don't want to. I'm not being critical of the writer. I'm not being critical of Joby Harold, because he's saying interesting things. But at the same time, I feel like as fans, we've been saying a lot of the same things for 3 years.
Yeah.
And like so no hate to Jody Harold, and no hate to Entertainment Weekly. Like they're not selling the show to us. We're going to be at Celebration, or everybody listening to this either going to be at Celebration or they're going to be following along with Celebration. They've got us. We're hooked. They're trying to sell this show to the people like, you want McGregor's back? Oh, that's interesting. What's happening? Ooh, dark times. Interesting. All right, like that's who they're selling it to. So I get it, but I also feel like we should. I feel like these are quotes that he could have said a year ago, and I feel like if he had said them a year ago, we'd be like all over them. Like, this is huge, and this, it gets to like kind of a thing I have with Lucasfilm, which is you can market these things in advance. You don't have to wait until 40 some odd days before the premiere to be saying things like this. These are the sort of things that you could say about any Obi-Wan Kenobi story set in this time period. And so I don't see why you couldn't have Joby Harold, go on the Star Wars show on YouTube when that still existed, or go on, some film podcast, or come on a Star Wars podcast like this one. He wouldn't come on this one, but why they can't
ourselves short here.
Come
on. Joby Harold anytime.
Or give an interview to like Slash Film or something, like, and just say something similar, and just get people like thinking and excited and feeling good about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show long in advance. And maybe the Obi-Wan Kenobi show of all the shows is the one that doesn't need people to feel good about it. People just feel good about the fact that it's happening. But I feel like there are little teases that you can roll out further in advance. You don't have to save it all for a deluge barrage at the end.
Yeah, well, and it all goes back to I think, I guess my frustration and just overall, I think a lot of people share my opinion here that like Lucasfilm has this, let's just say, obsession with secrecy and keeping things. And I understand a lot of stuff leaks. They want to keep things. I appreciate that they kept the lid on Grogu for so long. Like that was great, but there is also this like overcompensation when it comes to different things. Like I'll never forget like watching the live stream for I believe it was I know it was Rise of Skywalker. It was the toy reveal for that, and they bring out like I think it was like the Lego, not the Lego, but the Black Series 3PO figure, which is a really cool figure. I can't believe I don't actually have that one, but basically it came with a little tiny Babu Frick. And I remember Anthony Daniels going like, "Oh, I love Babu Frick. He's one of my favorite new characters, but I can't talk about him. I can't say anything about him. You just have to wait and see the movie." And I'm like, and then I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And then you watch the movie, and you're like, "You could have said some things about Babu Frick, Anthony Daniels. You could have. Like, you don't have to spoil the whole movie. You don't have to give away the whole plot about the dagger and the whole thing. But you could have said something like, hey, he's a droid smith, whatever else. He's doing this. He lives on this planet." But like, they get so caught up in this, like every detail is a spoiler. Yeah. And then it just turns into, as we've talked about, like people just talking in just these weird speaks of like just saying random stuff and
saying everything but saying nothing. Like they're saying a lot of words, but they don't mean anything. Yeah, that's a pretty brutal example. An even worse one is Alden Ehrenreich being interviewed and say to him, "Hey, I heard that you've they cast Donald Glover in the show in Solo. Are you guys gonna have scenes together?" And he's like, "I don't know if I can say." Like, why the hell would you cast Han and Lando in a thing if they're not gonna have scenes together? And it's not even like it's like something that could conceivably be kept apart. It's the Han Solo movie. You don't put Lando in the Han Solo movie unless you're going to put them together. So yeah, they not everything is a spoiler. Some things could be teased out in advance in ways that are fun and that keep the discussion going. But oh well, whatever. Yeah. They clearly they will keep bringing it up, but they clearly feel differently. So whatever. But this is what's interesting about what Harold says in this article is I find this whole idea of Obi-Wan's faith being tested, right? Because Obi-Wan in a sense is supposed to be like the ultimate Jedi. He's supposed to have like the ultimate version of Jedi faith because he goes out into the desert for 20 years and watches over this kid and still believes in him at the end. Like even Yoda in the original trilogy, Luke shows up and Yoda's like, no, I don't like you. You're not doing what I want you to do. You're too old to begin the training. Like he's not into it. But Obi-Wan believes in Luke. And even after the worst thing that could ever happen to him or really to anybody happens in Revenge of the Sith, short of death, I suppose. Right. Maybe a few other things. But one of the worst things that could ever happen to anybody happens to him. He still takes on this, this sacred mission, and he goes out into the desert for 20 years and basically has to live his life as a hermit. And we talked about it in the trailer. Like he looks broken in those Tatooine scenes. He just looks like a beaten man. And I really am going to be interested in seeing how they depict Obi-Wan, and is he going to have a moment where he just says, you know what? Who even cares? The Jedi Order, now that they're extinct, the Jedi are lionized, but strip away the accolades. And was Luke saying I'm butchering the last Jedi line, but the key line of it is the legacy of the Jedi is failure, is what Luke says. And he says earlier in that movie, it's time for the Jedi to end. I kind of feel like Obi-Wan might be in a similar place when we begin the story. And I sort of, I think this show, I think this version of Obi-Wan's going to bear a lot of resemblance to grumpy old man Luke in the Last Jedi.
I think Obi-Wan's whole thing, I mean, in the prequels and the Clone Wars, I think he shares a lot of Anakin's frustrations with the Council of what they did and all this kind of stuff. He just doesn't voice them a whole lot because he's trying to be that rock. He's trying to be that good Jedi and trying to, keep Anakin from teetering over the edge. And doing all this, I think he does see a lot of the flaws, and I think he was always a good Jedi, a good, reasonable person who saw the flaws and saw their failures. And I think being kind of at ground zero, literally, with the fall of the Jedi Order, that can leave you very broken and very cynical about this. And then the like whole thing, not just self-loathing, which I think there will be a lot of that, and that's what I think that's what a lot of what Lucas' problems was that he blamed himself, maybe rightfully so to some of it, that that things went wrong because he could have done more, or he did these things wrong, and he thought about killing his nephew for a bit. That was a big thing, and Obi-Wan's gonna have that same thing.
Will Obi-Wan have a moment in this series, like early on, like episode 1 or episode 2, where he just goes, screw it, let the kid be a moisture farmer?
I think that's going to be his thing. I think he's going to be completely lost, and he will not be about the mission. Yeah. I think he will be like, okay, why would I do this again? Why would I bring this thing? Like you could make the argument, not knowing the future, you can make the argument, hey, look, why would I put this kid's life in jeopardy? Like, I already did it to Anakin. We're right back where we started. If we just left Anakin back in Mos Espa, he probably would have been better off. Yeah, he was a slave, but he would have got freed and he would have been fine. But like you come right back to Luke, he's probably thinking, why would I train this kid? And make that and create this whole mess over again.
Yeah, and I think Obi-Wan in this moment, and Luke, in that sort of pre Force Awakens Last Jedi moment, I think they share roughly the same fear, which is this descendant of Anakin Skywalker has the potential for greatness in him. Just like Anakin, just like his father or his grandfather in Ben Solo's case. But with that potential for greatness comes the potential for great evil. Yeah. And Anakin chose great evil. That was his choice. That's what he decided to do with his life. And so Obi-Wan might feel, as Luke did, the best thing for us to do, the best thing for the galaxy might be to prevent that kind of power from being out there. And now Luke went about it by trying to kill Ben after he had already done some training with him. Obi-Wan's version of that might be, you know what? The kid's better off growing up with his uncle, learning the version of his family legacy where his father was the navigator on a spice freighter, and just sticking around on Tatooine, farming that moisture, fixing those droids, going into Tashi Station for some power converters, and just not worrying about it, not getting out there. And something has to happen over the course of this adventure for him to go, oh, no. It's worth the risk. It's worth the risk that Luke could go down the same path. Because if he chooses not to, then the galaxy could be saved. That boy is our last hope.
And I think Star Wars has a lot to teach us in this regard of, the world is bad. The world we live in is not in great circumstances. And it's very easy to go like, well, can't do anything about it. So just keep going the way it is. And, it's not going to get any better.
It's not that I like the Empire. I hate it. But there's nothing I can do about it right now.
But you can go back to you can go back to certain characters in certain times. I look at Kanan in like right at the beginning of Rebels. He's just like, whatever. The Empire's here. I can't do anything about it. I don't want to get involved in another war. I just want to live my life and protect my family, and that's it. And Hera's all like, oh, we've got to do something because we can take down the Empire. We can do this. Luke in Last Jedi, he's not giving up. He's not saying, he's like, Luke is kind of doing in his weird kind of twisted way is doing a heroic thing of saying, I'm going to sacrifice my family and my friends for the sake of the galaxy because I've contributed to this cycle of violence and I'm directly contributing to it. So the only way I know how to stop it is just to pull myself out of it and to let it play out, and hopefully it will work itself out. Obi-Wan could be in a similar place. He could be like, I'm one of the reasons the Empire is such a crappy place, right? The galaxy is such a crappy place right now. What can I do to change it? And the Empire is so mighty, and so this problem is so huge. What could I possibly do to make a difference? And, just let sleeping dogs lie and go back to, hanging around on this planet and watching this kid grow up. Like, I like that idea of coming back to that and going like, no, you have a specific mission. You, even in a small way, Obi-Wan doesn't save the galaxy. He doesn't there, but he's a part of that. He's one cog in the machine that leads to freedom and prosperity in the galaxy.
Yeah. So and essentially, I guess the overriding question for the series is, what is it? What's out there that can reignite the spark in Obi-Wan, where he believes not just in the Jedi or the sacred mission of his, or even Anakin's legacy, but what makes him realize that, like, oh, I have a job to do. I have to protect this kid. There's good in this world, Mr. Frodo. Like he's gotta
go back to that quote.
Yeah, he's got to get out there. It's got to get him back out there, and that's, I think, what we're going to see 6 episodes of is Obi-Wan realizing that. See, we could have had that conversation a year ago. If they just put out these Jody Harold quotes back then. Oh man! All right, let's talk a little Mandalorian. Let's step away from Obi-Wan Kenobi and look a little further down the line and talk a little bit about Mandalorian season 3, and specifically when we might see it. Because Giancarlo Esposito's out there, and he's talking a lot about when we might see season 3 of The Mandalorian. Now, he was on the Rich Eisen show, which is a podcast, and I guess that's actually a TV show on Peacock. He was out there, and he was talking about when we might about what it's like being on the show, and he said something that got a lot of people talking about the future of The Mandalorian and when we might actually see the next season. So take a listen to this clip of Giancarlo Esposito on the Rich Eisen show.
When do I and my children, the whole family, get more Mandalorian?
You'll get it soon. You'll get it soon. I've got a few things to do in regard to that, to put some finishing touches on what I do.
Okay.
But I believe it'll be sometime this summer. No date set yet, but coming soon.
Okay. How, again, I'm just assuming, but when the Star Wars folks, whoever that might be, or Disney folks reach out to you and say, would you like to be the evil character in The Mandalorian, in the Star Wars oeuvre, the first television show based on it, how quickly do you say yes to that?
Oh, my goodness. Jon Favreau called me, said, I have good news and bad news. I said, what's the good news? He said, I wrote a role for you in Mandalorian, specifically for you. And I said, wow, fantastic. What's the bad news? The bad news is all the money's going on the screen. And I said, is there more good news? How about back end, baby? And he said to me, Disney's doing it. Wow. I have nothing but great things to say about this studio, about this franchise,
yes.
In regard to how they have enlightened our children to mythology and to what's right and how to go about doing what's right, how to be in service. The Mandalorian is service. And thankfully, I've been on another job in New York, and pandemic hit, things have gotten backed up, and they have waited for me with such wonderful love and respect for me to come back and do what I do and love to do. So this is a great show. You say yes, and then you say, I've got one caveat, John. He's like, oh, what's that? I said, I must have a cape.
Yeah, damn straight.
Yeah, baby.
Damn straight you've got to have a cape.
I gotta have a cape, baby.
Yeah, of course you do. I got to tell you, I had no idea you were in it. I had no idea. And we're watching it, my wife Susie and I, who are huge fans of yours and everything else that you've done. And my kids, as you might imagine, they're 13, 11, and 8, so subtract a year and a half or whenever the first season of Mandalorian we were watching it is. They have yet to see, Do the Right Thing and Better Call Saul, and they've yet to see a lot. They haven't seen the usual suspects yet. And so you pop up as Moff Gideon, and it dawns on me that you are now the evil character, the Vader of this equation.
That's right.
Okay? And I pause it, and my wife and I explain to them how lucky they are that you are playing this character. I swear to you, we did this. It's just like, hey, his name is Giancarlo Esposito. This is amazing. Like you're in good shape here.
Thank you so much,
You're
Rich.
welcome.
It's
true.
A meaningful thing for young people to understand that the deep link between good and evil and stories of service like Mandalorian that excites them is a deep mythology of historical relevance. And for me to be involved in this show extends the kind of spiritual elements that I believe in, but the human elements that we need in our world right now.
Oh, that was Giancarlo Esposito on the Rich Eisen show talking about Mandalorian. Of course, the thing they said that got all the attention, like there's a lot of good stuff in that interview, but the thing they said that got all the attention was that Mandalorian season 3 would be coming out in the summer. I think it's safe to say no, that's not when it's happening. That
didn't sound right.
Yeah, it's going to be December, maybe November. But most likely it'll get the Book of Boba Fett treatment, where we'll get an episode between Christmas and New Year to kick things off, so they can say it came out in 2022, but the bulk of it will be in 2023. I guess Giancarlo's just a guy that he's an actor, right? Like he shows up, he does his bit. And then he goes home. It's not his job to edit it. It's not his job to figure out when it's gonna air. It's not his job to do any of that stuff. So he's just got to show up and be intimidating, be scary, and be all those things that he's really good at being. And do more of that in season 3. I'm fascinated to see what Moff Gideon's role in season 3 of The Mandalorian is going to be.
That's what I've been thinking about.
Because the way season 2 ends, he's in custody. He's captured by Mando and Cara Dune and Bo-Katan and Fennec Shand and Cosca Reeves. They're all there. They've captured him. I guess Luke is gone at that point. And it's kind of left uncertain. It's not really clear what is going to happen with Moff Gideon. And we see where some of those characters go next. We see where Fennec is. We see where Din is.
Yeah.
And Moff Gideon's not around. He's not around. So my assumption at the end of that scene, and still is my assumption, is that he's taken into New Republic custody. That Marshal Dune takes him to Coruscant or somewhere else. Obviously, there's a small wrinkle with that now, given that Marshal Dune, presumably not going to be appearing in season 3. It's safe to say that's not going to happen, Matt, because she died off screen of space dysentery. You've seen that fan comic that goes around every now and again. Grief Karga says to Mando, "Hey, we should call Cara Dune." And Mando's like, "Yeah, we can't. She died. Space dysentery. She pooped herself to death." But the point is, I would have thought, and probably Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were thinking at the time that scene was shot, that season 3 could feature some stuff with Cara Dune and Moff Gideon, perhaps duking it out while he's in New Republic custody, sort of. Sure. So it's much in the same way that Bill Burr is in New Republic custody, and Cara Dune was able to go and find him and break him out in season 2. I kind of think like there might have been something like that going on, where maybe she wasn't going to break him out, but she would have been in charge of his detail to make sure he doesn't escape, because Moff Gideon's a wily guy and he would probably want to escape.
And much like Mayfeld, it could be that like we get to, we've already seen a little bit of Mando's story, like continuing, and obviously we get the mention of him in Boba Fett. And like he's in New Republic custody and he's going to go on trial or whatever else. Maybe that's happening on screen, but maybe halfway through the season, we're like, Din needs him for something. There's something, and they go rogue, and you have Paul Sung Young Lee's character come out and have to break him out, and you got Din and Moff Gideon, this begrudging little alliance to do something.
One thing that I think, what I think, if I had to guess, and usually I guess wrong, so take this with that in mind, but I have a suspicion that even though Moff Gideon will be in New Republic custody at the beginning of the season, he will not stay in New Republic custody. I think he's too important an asset for the Imperial Remnant and perhaps for another guy that's out there to let him remain in custody of the New Republic. I think he knows too much because he's the guy that's in charge of the whole Grogu operation. He's cared about M counts and wanting to, get the child's blood and all of that stuff. So I think one of two things will happen. One, he'll be broken out of prison. Two, he'll be assassinated. Because the Mandoverse seems to have kind of a Russian doll effect with their villains, right? We started off with Werner Herzog. We thought he was a big deal. We thought he was a big bad guy. Turned out he was nobody. We don't even know his name. He just he just gets killed off fairly unceremoniously, and Moff Gideon becomes kind of the main villain. But then midway through season 2, Ahsoka, who is a character that focuses more on the big picture these days, she's not really interested in Moff Gideon. She's interested in Grand Admiral Thrawn. Yep. And we've talked in the past about how much are Thrawn and Gideon working together? Do they have the same goals? Is Thrawn an Imperial asset? Is Thrawn an asset for the Chiss Ascendancy? Is it something in between? I have a feeling that whoever Thrawn works for, or even if Thrawn's just working for himself, it's not in his interest to have Moff Gideon blabbing to the New Republic about what he was up to. Because I suspect Thrawn likely wants something to do with Grogu and everything that's going on there. I don't think those two storylines are going to be unrelated. I don't think they can be unrelated. Yeah. And so he will want Moff Gideon either out of prison or taken out. And I suspect that's something that will happen at some point in the season. And maybe that's how Thrawn actually gets introduced into the series. Maybe there's, an assassin out there that could be hired. And we'll have a whole sequence of them going into the New Republic prison, or just as, Moff Gideon's about to be put on trial and he's assassinated in a very public way. And then, I kind of hate that we talk about post-credit scenes with Star Wars now, but, it is what it is. But, in a post-credit scene or a mid-credit scene or whatever, that assassin, reports back to their boss. There he is. There's Lars Mikkelsen in all his blue glory, setting up the tease, and then you can have the title card. The James Bond will return thing. Grand Admiral Thrawn will return in Ahsoka.
But imagine the season opens with it's Din and Ahsoka and maybe a whole crew, and they're going into a New Republic facility, and they're wiping out people and breaking in. They're doing wait, these are good guys, but they're doing a thing, and then they're they open a cell door, and it's Moff Gideon. It's you must be truly desperate to come for me for help.
Man, if they do, that would be terrific. That would be terrific. But that would just be them going, you know what? Everything we did in the season 2, the final scene of the season 2 finale. forget all of it. We're undoing it all. Grogu's not staying with Luke. Gideon's not staying in jail. Sorry, our bad. We need a mulligan here. Undo it all.
Also, by the way, here, Bo-Katan, have this dark saber.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this isn't a big deal. It's yours now. Yeah. Go rule Mandalore or whatever. Who cares? But there's stuff there. There's some interesting potential here, and it'll be interesting to see how this all sort of fits together. This larger puzzle that is Moff Gideon and the High and the New Republic, not the High Republic. We'll get to the High Republic in a second. The New Republic and of course Grand Admiral Thrawn, because I don't think we can get through season 2 of season 3 of Mandalorian without a proper Thrawn tease.
Yeah, like the fact that I know they're setting up a larger universe in a way, the Mandoverse, whatever you want to call it, but the fact that Ahsoka mentions Thrawn, that's a tease for not just the larger universe, but Thrawn is going to be a antagonist and a player in the Mandalorian in a future season, perhaps this next season.
Yeah, and I think we saw earlier this year with Book of Boba Fett how, whether it was intended this way or not, when they started planning out all these shows, the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, and Grogu, Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, are the center of gravity for all of this, and everything else revolves around them. And so, even if at a time they maybe thought, Grand Admiral Thrawn will be more of a, he'll exist on the fringes of their story for the majority of it. I feel like now they've realized that audiences are invested in those two, and everybody else is orbiting around them. Everybody else's story the main focus of everybody else's story is how they interact with those two, and so I think Grand Admiral Thrawn will find his way into the Mandoverse proper in the Mandalorian, and then he'll go off and he'll be part of the Ahsoka series. But ultimately, I think everything comes back to the Mandalorian. I don't buy into these rumors that the Mandalorian will end after season 3 and be replaced with some other show that includes Din Djarin and Grogu, but is called something else. No, the Mandalorian is too big a brand at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
That even if they wanted to do that, they'll take those story ideas and they'll repackage them as part of the Mandalorian, and they'll keep the focus on Din and Grogu. This is Din and Grogu's universe now. For the time being, this is their universe, and everybody else, whether it's Obi-Wan Kenobi or Cassian Andor or Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Echo, and Omega, they're all playing in Din Djarin's universe.
It's
Din
basically
Djarin and
that
Grogu's
meme.
universe.
It's basically that Tom Hanks meme of the it's just Din and Grogu going look at me, it is my universe now.
I'm Star Wars now. Yeah. Yeah. Joel threw in the super chat here. Chances of Thrawn appearing in season 3 as a cameo. I think we've talked about this. Yes. I think that's.
I'd say 80%,
very likely.
80%.
Yeah. 80%. I might even go 90. I think it's happening. Another super chat from Joel. My hope, massive time jump with Din and Grogu post Rise of Skywalker.
I don't think that's going to happen. Oh man, that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think Grogu's going to be around post Rise of Skywalker. Let's not kid ourselves. That kid's sticking around. He ain't going anywhere.
At this point, you cannot rule out a Grogu cameo, if not significant role in Rogue Squadron. You can't. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
He'll be
it's there's never going to be a 0% chance of that happening.
He'll be flying the revamped N1 Starfighter in there, joining up with the rogues.
Because here's the thing. It could be set in the far past or the far future. He's alive in all those eras. Okay, Grogu's around in all of those things.
Yeah. Well,
I baby or can be a big old Jedi Grogu.
Yeah. Well, watch. once this whole Mandoverse story comes to an end, there'll be a refocusing of Star Wars. They'll point the main focus of it somewhere else. And I have a feeling that when that happens, enough time will have passed that people will be interested in a post Rise of Skywalker story. I don't just mean audiences, I mean actors. I think, Daisy and John and Oscar and all those cats, they'll want to come back. And much in the same way that Ahsoka was the big reveal, big cameo in season 2 of the Mandalorian. I think Grogu might be the big reveal in season 2 of whatever the post Rise of Skywalker storylines might be.
I think what's going to happen at Celebration is that Kathleen Kennedy is going to come on stage and say, "Yeah, we were very deliberate about naming the first 9 films the Skywalker saga. So the next 9 films are going to be the Grogu saga."
Why not? Why not?
It's right there. Just do it.
Yeah. It's right there. All right, so that's what Giancarlo Esposito's saying. That's what he's out there saying these days. I'm sure we'll hear more.
I don't care if he's getting us, unfairly hyped for a summer release of The Mandalorian. Still love to hear from him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little High Republic. Phase 2 is coming up later this year in the fall. And there's lots of interesting questions about Phase 2 because, as we've talked about in the past, it takes place 150 years before Phase 1. Wow. Which is interesting, but not out of turn for Star Wars. It's very, very much a classic Star Wars move to go with that. Well, there was a new episode of the High Republic show on YouTube this week, and they revealed the cover for one of the new High Republic books, one of the Phase 2 books that will be coming out this November, I believe, and it's called Path of Deceit. It's written by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland. This is what they say about it. Cover art for the young adult novel Star Wars: The High Republic, Path of Deceit. This is from StarWars.com. Written by Grattan and Ireland, features a Pantoran Jedi, a character known only as the Mother, and a new Evereni character, Marda Rowe, for a story that returns us to the planet Dalna to meet a new group, the Path of the Open Hand. Interesting stuff. There's a couple of interesting names in there. If you are familiar with Phase 1, Dalna was a big planet in the series. And of course, anytime you hear the name Ro, that's a big deal because, this isn't a spoiler, but the main villain of the High Republic Phase 1, and presumably the High Republic just in general, is Marchion Ro. So presumably Marda is a grandmother. A lot was made about Marchion's father. That's a big deal in Light of the Jedi, and especially in the Tempest Runner audio drama. But not a whole lot has been said about his mother. I can't remember if she features in the Eye of the Storm 2-part series. I don't know if Matt from Ion Cannon is still in the chat. He might be able to help us out with some just getting the refreshing the old memory of what's going on there. But the Rowe family, very important to the galaxy, very important to the High Republic. They also released some more concept art of Marda Rowe, and boy, she looks awfully friendly. For someone whose descendant is a fairly murderous dude, she looks awfully friendly. She's got flowers in her hair. She's carrying a bouquet. She kind of looks like she's a friendly gal.
Well, that's classic Star Wars style. From all of us who thought, oh, you going back in time to see Darth Vader as a kid? He's going to be this evil brat. Nah, he was a nice person, and his mother was even a better person. So I think we're going to learn something similar. There's a similar lesson to be learned in regards to the Rowe family.
Yeah, and I suspect that there's more than meets the eye with Marta Rowe. And this idea that she's walking around giving flowers out to people may be a cover story. She may, maybe she does that so that people don't think she's super evil. And as the High Republic, as Phase 1 went on, we started to meet some characters that seemed like they were kind of cool on the surface. They had a real nasty side behind them, underneath. And maybe Marta's like that too. Another super chat. This is Joel just wanting us to make his jokes for him. He says, the mother, oh no, Abeloth, Legends reference. Yeah, I'm, I want to go on a brief Legends rant, if I may.
Okay.
Back in the day, they introduced this character named Abeloth, kind of an interesting character. I was kind of into it. This was in the Fate of the Jedi series. And this was around the same time that the Clone Wars was on. And if you remember back in the day, there was like beef between the Clone Wars and the EU, the Legends. Yeah, it was like beef. And, Legends fans hated Clone Wars because it was messing up the canon and all that stuff, whatever. But the beef didn't necessarily extend to like the writers and the creators, right? Like I think the Clone Wars writers really dug a lot of stuff in Legends and they were inspired by it and they pulled it into the Clone Wars. And the Legends writers, I think a lot of them liked the Clone Wars because they decided to incorporate the Mortis gods into Fate of the Jedi. And, with the Mortis gods, there's the father, the son, the daughter, and there's kind of there's one member of the sort of traditional family unit there that's missing. The mother. So spoiler alert for a 10-year-old series. They decided to make Abeloth the mother, which in and of itself, actually, I think is kind of a cool concept. And I think it's cool that they were like trying to weave it all together. But they were so afraid of pissing off the like really nasty, toxic Legends fans that they never mentioned Ahsoka in the books. And it felt like they went out of their way never to mention Ahsoka in those books because like they basically summarized the Mortis trilogy in the books to like catch people up who hadn't watched the show and to introduce these concepts to it. And they talked about Obi-Wan and they talked about Anakin, and it was like on the tip of your tongue to mention Ahsoka, but they didn't. Because now everybody loves Ahsoka and as they should. But back in the day, she was a controversial character.
Yeah.
And lots of people really hated her. And the same way they talk about Rey now or Rose, people talked about Ahsoka. So it's ironic now when people say, "Oh, I don't hate female characters in Star Wars. I like Ahsoka." I was like, "Yeah, well, what were you saying 15 years ago, bro?"
Right. That's so funny.
You tell I'm getting fired up because I just said bro. But like, listen, bro, what's up, bro? So they, but they could have incorporated Ahsoka. They should have incorporated Ahsoka, but they didn't because they were pandering to the toxic fans. And it was in a way kind of a precursor to, Rose only having, was it 100, not even 100 seconds, 76 seconds of screen time in The Rise of Skywalker, where it's like, oh, what? No, we're definitely not pandering to the people that hate this character by, trying to have it both ways by having them in there, but not, so I remember I remember being like, oh, this is so cool. They've incorporated Mortis. I love it. I think that what they've done with Abeloth, they've enriched her backstory. But why are you so afraid of your fan base that you can't mention this other character who is critical to the backstory?
Yeah.
Anyways,
and like nowadays, it would be like the opposite. They would be like,
yeah, they'd go out of their way to mention
the
Ahsoka.
book would be about Ahsoka. Like it would, they would be going over.
Well, I knew the times they were a changing when I read Tarkin by James Luceno a couple of years later, which was one of the first canon, quote unquote, novels, and they mentioned Ahsoka in there. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. we're giving ourselves a fresh start here. Yeah. Anyways, that's a rant that's buried deep within me for 10 plus years. But it just felt right now to go on it. I'm not the only one that remembers. Yanni remembers. Yanni remembers. We remember Yanni, the bad old days. Quickly, we will go through a couple more super chats from Joel. Fun fact: some of the Clone Wars tie-in books at the time actually brought Luke's ghost girlfriend Callista. She even interacted with Ahsoka. I did not know that. I did not read all of those. That's pretty wild. See, it would go the other way, right? Like Clone Wars tie-in stuff would reference the weirdest blank from Legends.
Oh yeah.
But not the other way around. The Legends couldn't mention the main thing about Clone Wars because their fans would lose their freaking minds. If you think that's bad, see how post-Endor Legends treated Padme even after the prequel. She's barely mentioned. Yeah. We haven't really talked about it, but a new Padme novel just came out recently, or is just about to come out. I've seen some people reading it, but I'm not sure if they're reading like advanced copies or if it's actually out. Queen's Hope by E.K. Johnston. But the first of those Padme novels is kind of insane to think about. Was the first Padme novel ever? It was like 19 years after the Phantom Menace, or almost 20 years after the Phantom Menace, the first ever Padme book came out. It was wild that no Padme books ever came out before that, and especially when she was the main character. She's the main character of the Phantom Menace and one of the main characters of the prequels.
It's insane to think about.
Yeah, it's just bonkers. Padme, Ahsoka, Rey, Rose, what do all these characters have in common? And people, they got the short end of the stick from quote-unquote fans.
I can't put my finger on it.
Can't figure it out.
Oh, no, couldn't be. Could it?
Yeah. Anyways, High Republic stuff, Marta Rowe, very interesting character, Path of Deceit, cool looking cover. Excited to find out more about these. And I feel like this most recent episode of the High Republic show was kind of the appetizer for the big High Republic meal that is going to be Star Wars Celebration. We know that Charles Soule, Justina Ireland, Kevin Scott, Daniel Jose Older, and Claudia Gray will all be there, and they are the main authors of the High Republic. They'll all be at Celebration, so presumably get a big panel, get some big announcements. It'll be a good time.
We're gonna get some Markion Rowe cosplay. We're gonna get some good High Republic cosplay. That's gonna be so exciting. I'm crossing my fingers and my toes for a Buri Yaga cosplay. Oh yes, okay.
Let's go.
Somebody has to do that. Somebody has to do that.
Yeah. There's a few characters. I'm excited to see.
Speaking of sweating, Wookiee cosplay.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. That's your High Republic update for this week. And also kind of in fun, interesting little side news, we got Galactic Pals. This is a new toy line and animated micro series was revealed this week. They dropped a trailer for this on the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel, along with the first 2 episodes, which are about Ewoks and Wookiees. So they're about a minute long. They're animated. They're for kids, like young kids. Like these are for 3 to 7-year-olds. This
30-year-olds.
Yeah, or 30-year-olds. Yeah, but it's the sort of thing where it's like if you're older than that and you watch it and you're like, this isn't for me. Don't lose your mind about it. It's designed for parents to watch with their kids. I mean, anybody can like it, but
there's a reason those comment sections are turned off on those videos, and it's because people older than 5 years old lose their mind. I saw a TikTok today where the TikToker, she's like, I saw that Star Wars announced this series on Instagram, and everybody in the comment section was very well behaved and mature and accepted it well. Just kidding. Grown ass adults, grown ass men specifically, were losing their mind. And it's just like it's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of fun, and they got toys. Look at these cute little toys that are tying in with it. It's just like if you took. It's sort of like if you baby Yoda-ified Greedo, Ewoks, Jawas, and Chewbacca. Like it's so funny because like all these angry boys in the comment sections, They're gonna buy every single one of these things. They're gonna have them. They're gonna have one to keep in the box and one to open. Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I love it when they do these things. I love it when they have stuff that's just there for the kiddos. Like,
I like the Galaxy of Adventure. What is it? Galaxy of Adventure? No, it was the other ones. And they had the dolls they had the Rey and the Sabine dolls. Really cool.
Forces of Destiny. Yeah,
Forces of Destiny. Yeah.
Yeah, those were cool. The Galaxy of Adventure were cool. Star Wars Galaxy of Creatures was cool. Like, they're just, and this one's kind of a spin-off from Galaxy of Creatures. They're just supposed to be a little bit of fun.
And man, if I was a kid, I mean, I think it's really cool now. And if I had money, I would buy those things. But as a kid, man, I've been all over that stuff.
Yeah. And if you're a parent too, like, this is a great little sort of introduction to Star Wars for kids. It's the movies the movies are for kids and they're a lot of fun, but there's some heavy moments in there, and not all 3-year-olds are ready for it. Some 3-year-olds need just some fun with some Wookiees, and so So there should be. It's what we always say. There should be some Star Wars for everybody. Yeah. And there's lots of stuff for quote unquote adults these days with Kenobi and Mando and everything. We started the show talking about Celebration. Let's circle back to it. We've got some more guests that were announced for Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. I still want to say Chicago. But we got Sam Witwer, Matt Lanter, and Katie O'Brien. They will all be there, and they will all be signing autographs. Sam Witwer, of course, is the voice of Maul in Clone Wars, Rebels, and Solo, as well as being the voice and face of Starkiller in The Force Unleashed.
And Palpatine in a bunch of things, including the Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Yep, there you go. Matt Lanter, of course, voice of Anakin Skywalker in Clone Wars and Rebels and some other stuff. He'll be there, and it's good that Matt will be there. As we talked about a couple weeks ago, he had a little bit of a health scare, but it seems to be he's feeling better, and he's going to be out there at Celebration meeting everybody. And Katie O'Brien is from The Mandalorian. She was Moff Gideon's Imperial officer in those episodes. She kind of recurred through season 2. And so it's cool that she's one. I think there's definitely some Star Wars autograph collectors out there that will want to add
also
her signature to their collection.
Who is suspiciously absent from when the good guys came in and massacred everyone on the bridge of the things. She's not there, so I'm like, maybe she made it off, or maybe she can show back up in season 3.
Interesting. I like it. So yeah, maybe she can be at the Mando Plus panel on Saturday.
Do it.
They should at these panels, they should just bring out all of the cast members that are there. Like, if they're there signing autographs, get them on stage for 20 minutes. They can be away from their tables for that long. Including Matt Lanter. Yeah. It's season 1. Absolutely.
Seriously, no one, I don't think, in the media has asked him about how he got that role, and there's been nothing talked about it. I want to hear the whole story.
Yeah. Well, when Sir Benjamin finishes drilling Rupert Friend for his opinions on fan reaction, maybe he can head over.
Mr. Lanter, can you please talk about Mando? How you got your role in Mando? I don't know where Sanchez came from, but Mr. Lanter, please talk to me.
I love it. I don't know if that makes anybody else laugh, but it will never cease to make me laugh.
I hope so. I really hope so. Suffering for your art.
Yeah. Art. Suffering for your art. Oh my God, that was incredible, Ben. But you know what? It's true. It is art. It is a true art form. What you're doing here.
Yeah, you appreciate it. Not many do.
Sir Benjamin is a masterpiece of character work.
That thing is really sweaty, by the way.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. That brings us more or less to the end of the news list here. But we still got a little bit of time. Let's get to some listener feedback. We got a couple of emails in here that we can read. As always, if you want to send in your listener feedback, you can send it in to swunderworld@gmail.com. You can comment on something we said on the show. Maybe there's something you think we should be talking about on the show, or maybe you just have a thought about Star Wars that you want to share with us. Again, swunderworld@gmail.com is the place to send it. All right, so we're going to start with this one from Hugh. Hugh writes, "Hi there, Underworld. Happy 12 years to you all, and a happy late birthday to Daisy Ridley as well. Where has all this time flown? It was fun listening to the top news segments from each year. It was interesting hearing it develop over time, from details to leaks to news about the upcoming films. After hearing you all discuss the new Lego Star Wars game, I thought I'd mention my thoughts on Star Wars Squadrons." Okay. It's like, hey, you talked about one Star Wars video game, so here's my thoughts on a different one. Love it, Hugh. No, please. It is great. Hugh says, "I recently started playing it, and so far I'm having a blast with flying I'm having a blast with flying colors." I think there's a couple of words missing in there. Having a blast, and the game passes with flying colors. I don't know. Maybe it's just having a blast with flying colors. Maybe
Flying Colors Squadron.
I think Hugh is from the UK, so maybe that's just a saying over there. Right, having a good time with flying colors. It's a good time. Right, pip pip cheerio. Gonna go watch Taskmaster. I'm having a blast with flying colors. Sorry, Hugh. You send in emails all the time. We're just making fun. We're just teasing you, buddy. We appreciate everything you send in. The visuals and audio are great, Hugh continues, and the experience is immersive even without VR. It's also fun choosing different weapons loadouts for each fighter and deciding what roles to go for. My main criticism is how limited the character customization is, especially when put up against games that go deeper into this realm, such as Phantasy Star Online, Fallout 3, and Star Wars Jedi Academy. Overall, Squadrons is great and deserves a sequel, as I believe it has the potential to be expanded on and enhanced. #sequel for Squadrons. Yeah. I'm currently playing with an Xbox 360 controller, but I'm planning on getting a Windows compatible HOTAS, hands on the throttle and stick. I didn't even know such a thing existed, but that's cool. For easier gameplay, especially as I'm thinking of transferring my X-Wing Alliance playouts to the PC I now use for gaming. Awesome. Thanks for the news and entertainment that you and this community have been putting out, and I look forward to seeing the podcast's 11th anniversary as well. Best wishes, Hugh. All right, Hugh, I feel like we've already teased you enough for this email, but I hadn't considered the possibility of doing an 11th anniversary special for the podcast. And when I did, I started shaking because the 10th anniversary nearly drove me insane because it required so many clips. And I spent so many hours digging through the archives, pulling those clips and cutting them. Literally the show that week was 15 minutes late, because I was pulling these clips up until the very last minute, and 15 minutes, like the show proper was 15 minutes late. I skipped the pre-show to get that one, to get all that done. So, if there's going to be an 11th anniversary episode for the podcast, one, I have no idea what it could possibly be at this point. I've exhausted all of my ideas for anniversary episodes. I need like 5 years to think about it till we get to the 15th anniversary. Or Ben, you and Chris will have to plan that one, and I'll just kick back and
that sounds fair
and do nothing, seeing as I had to plan the last two.
I did 10 years worth of work in 2 days, so you guys figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, I appreciate the anniversary wishes, and that's awesome. I'm glad you're having fun with Squadron. Squadron looked cool. Like with all these video games, I sort of feel like, I bet I would have fun playing that, but I have not invested in any sort of means to do it by. I don't have the console.
I've had I since I was a kid, I've had like my eyes on like the fully like, of course, back in the day it would be like a driving thing where it has like a, the big steering wheel, a shifter gear, everything like you just put it on your desk and then you like drive a car. Like that's amazing. Putting that to like a Star Wars game, I'm assuming they have like flight simulator stick that you could do for Squadrons. That sounds amazing. And the all the gameplay stuff I've seen of Squadrons looks really cool. So I'd love to play it one day. I don't have a system currently, but it's I've heard a lot of great things.
Yeah, one day, Ben, we'll play all these games. We'll play Squadrons. We'll play Fallen Order. We'll play Lego Star Wars. We'll play Connect Star Wars again, just because it's fun, and just want to.
And see, that's the thing is, once you get all the next gen consoles, there's all the old school consoles that you gotta get to. Because I was looking at like Nintendo Switch, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to get like some of the old Lego games. No, those are on like the old systems, like the Wii. I don't want to go back and buy a Wii, but here we are.
Yeah, well, I saw like the Force Unleashed is getting like some massive repackage, re-release, and I think it's like the Wii version of the game, which was different from all the other versions.
The
for
PS2
some reason.
version, which I had, and the Wii version is a completely different game. It's fun, but it's not the game that was advertised originally with all the next gen graphics. It's not that.
Yeah, it's not the what we played on. I think those were the last games I played. I think on the Xbox 360, I want to say. Probably.
Right.
Yeah. Probably. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm glad you're having fun with Squadrons, and looking forward to hearing more about people's gaming habits and what they're playing in Star Wars, because there's a lot of good Star Wars games out there. Somebody else who wants to talk about Star Wars games is Jonathan. Jonathan writes, "Holy Star Wars Legos Batman." This game is amazing. First of all, love you, dudes. Dude spelled DOODS. You've read all my emails on the air, and I'm grateful. I'm still a Patreon supporter, so anyone out there that isn't, just help these awesome bros out. They love Star Wars, and we love listening to their wonderful takes on everything Star Wars. Do the right thing and support them if you can. Well, thank you for Jonathan for writing our new Patreon new Patreon copy for this week. Again, patreon.com/theswu if you want to be cool like Jonathan. Or if you can't do it, you're still cool like Jonathan. All our listeners are cool like Jonathan. I've just decided Jonathan is the barometer for cool. So
the benchmark for cool.
Yeah, the benchmark.
Dude.
Jonathan goes on to say, the cool Jonathan goes on to say, anyway, I need to preface this by saying I only buy game systems to play Zelda. It's the only game I play. Breath of the Wild was probably the best game I've ever experienced, and I wanted something new as my Zelda games have all been played through. I thought I'd give Lego Star Wars a try because of the hype, and wow, it does not disappoint. If you don't have a Switch, just stop what you're doing and go get one, Ben. He doesn't say Ben, but I added the Ben. It's worth the money for this game. I was beyond skeptical about a Lego game, thinking it was going to be a dud, super childish, and a waste of money. But I'm loving this so far. The humor, fun cutscenes, and the fact that you basically get to rewatch all of Star Wars and actually play it. I started with episode 1, and I'll just be going straight through in numerical order. If you love Star Wars and you like the Lego movies, what are you waiting for? Anyways, maybe the big thing holding you guys back from getting a Switch is the fact that I'm not going to Celebration. Then puts three crying emojis. And you dudes, again, DOODS, are. So you probably have spent all of your hard-earned credits on that amazing experience: flights, hotel, food, tickets, souvenirs, etc. I really need to get there one day. Super jealous, but until then, I'll live through your podcast and the live stream. Keep up the amazing work, and I'll check you later. Jonathan, the dude, his dudeness, Sir Duderino. Then he says, LOL, okay, I'm done. Cheers. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm so jealous of everybody that's playing Lego Star Wars right now. I know everybody's having such a good time.
Yeah.
Everybody's having such a good time. So I know,
it's always fun to be excited by extension seeing
Yeah.
everyone really enjoying something. And even back when Squadrons was coming out and Jedi Fallen Orders, like I'm not really into that. I don't have a game, but that's it's so much positivity comes out of the gaming world.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of negativity comes out of there, but a lot of positivity.
I didn't want to mention that, but you're not wrong.
A lot of positivity with Star Wars games, except that one. You know the one.
You know the one.
You know the one. The one that's definitely not happening.
Yeah,
they made a trailer for it to try and get people to want to work on the game, and nobody applied. Well, maybe not nobody, but they couldn't fill all the positions.
And you can't tell me they made a launch trailer for it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're not releasing this for 8 years."
Yeah, it's like we our whole purpose here was to entice people to come work for us, and people said for some reason said, I love Star Wars, but the office culture at this place does not seem like fun. So no. Anyways, I feel like we're taking away from Jonathan's wonderful email with that little tangent, but that's awesome, Jonathan. It's terrific that you're having so much fun with Lego Star Wars. And yeah, we hope one day we'll see you at Star Wars Celebration, maybe Star Wars Celebration 2023 or 2024. I'm hoping we can get some more celebrations in there.
Yeah.
I hope that we can do a few years now, that because we had a few years away. I hope we can do a few years of consecutive celebrations, because
cool.
I feel like that's we're due for that. Or not. They don't owe us. They don't really owe us anything. All right. I'm looking at the time here, and on the in the Eastern time zone, it's 11:38 p.m. So I think that makes it the perfect perfect cutoff point for this episode.
Yeah,
we still have
probably so.
We still have some other emails to get to, but we'll save those for another week. We'll save those for another week. So if you want to add to that pile, swunderworld@gmail.com is the place to send it. Again, swunderworld@gmail.com. All right. Well, I think with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We hope you had a good time, and we know we certainly did. And, of course, we'll see you all same time, same place next week. We are, of course, live every Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on our YouTube channel. That's 6:30 Pacific. And other time zones in other places, other times in other time zones. So tune in live, or if you can't listen live, you can tune in and watch after the fact on YouTube, or you can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, all those fun places. And if you like the show, make sure you subscribe and review over there. Ben, thank you for holding down the fort with me this week. It's another great show.
Oh yeah, this was fantastic. So sorry that Chris can be here. Hopefully he gets out from under the weather and can join us next week. I'm sure he'll be fine. And we did miss him this week, but this was a lot of fun. Regardless, a lot of exciting things on the table here. I mean, we're not very far away from Celebration, so it's starting to hit me. It's starting to really hit me. Like, oh wow, it's coming. It's coming. It's been far away for so long. And now it's right on top of us. It's coming, guys. And even if you're not going, get excited. We got a lot of stuff coming at our faces. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. And, we'll be back same time, same place. Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. And in between shows, make sure you're following at the SWU on social media. You can also follow Ben at Ben Hart with no E. You can follow Chris at Seek3PO. And you can follow me at Dominic J25. And also follow at Percy the Puffer Pig for all sorts of bonkers Puffer Pig content. Again, if you enjoy what we do, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/theswu. That's where you can get access to all sorts of fun bonus content, specifically the weekly pre-show, and some opportunities to get some merch over there as well. Again, patreon.com/theswu. And also, if you want merch, cultureslate.com/store. That's an option for you as well for some more fun stuff. And of course, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube and everywhere else, because even if you don't want to watch the whole show, we put up clips throughout the week of little segments from the show that you can find on YouTube, so you can get a little taste of what the visual version looks like, in addition to the gloriousness of the audio version. And there's other little treats there, like the DIY Hero's Journey panel from Toronto Comic Con from about a month ago now. So you can watch that as well. I think that's it. I think that's it for plugs.
Yeah,
I think that about does it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As we said, we will be back next week, same time, same place, for more great Star Wars discussion. Who knows what we'll be talking about then? I certainly wouldn't have guessed some of the stories that we talked about this week. But hey, that's how it goes, right? And that's why we like it. That's why we keep coming back, because you never know what might be happening next in Star Wars. So join us then, Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. But for now, for Chris, for Ben, for all the other wonderful people at the Star Wars Underworld, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.